a discussion about the U.S. military's history with drag. Today, July 10th, 2023. Good morning, early birds. I'm Jonathan Lehrfeld, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. Today, I talked with Military Times reporter and senior editor Sarah Sicard about the American Armed Forces history with drag, especially in light of the Pentagon's recent ban on drag shows at U.S. military installations.
First, let me just reiterate up front that DoD recognizes June as LGBTQI plus Pride Month, and that we are very grateful for and acknowledge the many contributions of service members and DoD civilian employees from the LGBTQI plus community who serve our country. And as you well know, those of you who've covered DoD, we conduct special observance months to recognize the continuous achievements of all Americans and to American culture for increased awareness, mutual respect, and understanding, to include Pride Month. When it comes to drag shows, however, I would take exception. This has been a long-standing policy in terms of activities like this, that DoD will not host drag events at U.S. military installations or facilities. We became aware of the drag events during an April congressional hearing that there were a drag events scheduled to take place at DoD installations and facilities. And so, again, the Secretary advised that the department will not host such events.
Sarah, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So can you maybe tell us a little bit about the premise of your story?
Yeah, so, June was Pride Month, and I started sort of looking into the history of drag in the U.S. military, and it turns out that it's actually pretty prolific, dating back to World War II. It was so prolific, in fact, that it almost became policy.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about what the presence of drag was like pre-World War II, and then how that changed over time?
Yeah, so drag's origins, according to an NYU professor who is a drag historian, is that it comes through a certain number of historical theater traditions, including Greek theater, kabuki theater, and even Shakespearean or Elizabethan theater, rather. But the drag shows that, we see and are familiar with today actually come from vaudeville and musical, which is basically like a variety show. And so it's everything from, singing, dancing, skit work to cross-dressing, because there were no women in theater previously.
Broadly speaking, maybe for folks who are not as tuned into this, what is drag? Can you maybe give us a brief explanation of what it means for doing drag?
Drag, according to my sources, is a little bit misunderstood. It's actually just sort of a celebration of women, so far as I can tell. Women can not only participate in drag, but so can men, and so can straight men. It's just gotten this sort of reputation as being something that the LGBT community participates in, but actually historically anyone can participate in drag. It's actually just a form of essentially vaudeville art.
Right. And like you said, it has apparently been done, even in the military for a number of years, not just recently.
Yes, so going back to World War II, it actually originated with Irving Berlin, the musical composer on Broadway. He launched a show in order to raise money for the Army during World War II, which was a sort of a variety show, and it toured with soldiers who were often in various states of cross-dress.
I want to talk more about what drag policy, especially its connection to the military, is like today. But before that, you were telling me a little bit earlier about kind of the differences between drag policy and the policy of don't ask, don't tell. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about kind of how those are similar or how those are different over the years?
So Don't Ask, Don't Tell went into effect in the 1990s, but before that, there was a strict anti-gay policy that went into effect in the 80s. But before that, during World War II, and even before that, being gay was considered a mental illness, which precluded anybody who was gay or disclosed being anything other than heterosexual from joining the military. And so drag became a way for people who were serving covertly and members of the LGBTQIA community to be themselves without disclosing that information to anybody. So even though they were themselves dressing up in masks and things like that, it was them having a space to be their true selves on stage.
Can you maybe bring us up to speed as well about some of the recent debates over drag policy and drag shows that have been happening in the military community?
Interestingly, drag shows have sort of been deemed by conservative lawmakers as a sexualized event. And as a result, the Defense Department has in kind responded by banning these kind of drag show events from happening on military bases, even though they really have been able to occur since World War II. And as a result, this past month, Pride Month, on the first day of the month, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin came forward and put a ban on all drag shows, even things that were in the stages of planning for Pride Month, even though they're not paid for by the military. They were organized by private organizations, just allowed to be held on base. That is no longer the case moving forward. The shows were put on by private organizations and paid for by private organizations. And some of them were obviously performed in by service members in drag. However, they were not paid for by the Defense Department or taxpayer dollars.
That's it for us this morning. To get more of the top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on social media @defense_news and @Military Times. The Early Bird Brief is hosted by me, Jonathan Lehrfeld, and produced by Simone Z. Perez. If you liked our conversation today, be sure to check out Sarah's work at militarytimes.com. Also, please rate us and leave a comment on whatever platform you use. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Bruce. Have a great day.